Hello, everybody. Good to see you all again. I guess we'll just get started. Okay, make the mandala. Mike, would you please lead us in the mandala?
Yes.
Please make the mudra.
Sashi Purki Juxing Metok Tram Rira Bling Shi Ninde Gen Padi Sange Shingdu Mikte Wargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Drupar Shok Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kam Niryatayami.
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom. May I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will become a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. Okay, as is typical, we'll do a little rejoicing before we start class. Let's see, who's going to start with the rejoicing? Let's start with Olga. Yeah.
For me?
Yes.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to start. Um, actually, last 2 days I tried to practice my generosity. I try to give as much as possible, and like with dedication of financial freedom for everybody. So that's what I do.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's what's going to get you what you need in the future. But we all have to remember that it may not happen in this lifetime or the next. It may happen distant in the future. However, and that's how it's always taught. But however, it could ripen in this lifetime. So always do the deed. I always do the deed, hoping it will ripen in this lifetime. And sometimes for me, it has. So very good. Okay, let's go with Daria. What do you have to rejoice in?
I'm rejoiced, but maybe it's very strange, but I'm rejoiced. I sick. I'm sick.
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm rejoiced.
you rejoice that you're sick. Well, that's an interesting. What
Yeah,
can you share why you rejoice that you're sick?
because now I have run nose and high temperature, but I don't know. Maybe will be in future. I have uh, very heavy sick, maybe or maybe not. But now my seat it's grow.
Hmm. No, I've never heard
and
anybody
yeah,
rejoice that they're sick.
and I saw and I see in medicine it's work for me, and I'm happy to.
Okay. Well, that's a first. I've never had anybody rejoice that they're sick. That's very interesting. I have to think about that. Okay, Svetlana, how about you?
Hello, Venerable Sumati. Hello, everyone. I am rejoicing that this weekend we started ACI courses in Tibetan in Uchen, reading ACI courses in Uchen, and it's amazing. And also we had colloquial with Kelsang Kla, as Geshe mentioned. It's like, as far as I remember, the best person from whom we can study Tibetan language. So I'm really rejoicing about these amazing opportunities.
Excellent. And by rejoicing with wisdom, you're setting the seeds for you to have this in the future. And that's remarkable. I'm really impressed with the number of people that are translating and everything. Since I can't translate worth beans, I'm just glad I can speak the English language, although there are some people that deny me that, but they're wrong. Okay, Wendy, what do you have to rejoice about?
I'm rejoicing that this class is in a time zone that I can actually participate live in. I'm based in Europe, and this works out perfectly for me. So I'm really happy because this is the first ACI course that I'm able to do live. Yeah, and that it's that happened and that I'm here, and it's all. I'm really happy about that and getting to experience this with all of you.
Where are you located?
Eastern France.
Oh, you don't have a French accent.
No. From the UK originally.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm glad you could attend in person. And yeah, you have to remember back in the day when we first started this, it was all on cassette tape. I don't even know if any of you know what a cassette tape looks like, but it's on cassette tape. And the first 5 or 6 courses were very noisy and argumentative because there were several students that thought they knew as much, and maybe they did know as much as Geshe Michael, but if you can last through those first 5 or 6 courses, the rest go pretty nicely. But yeah, cassette tapes, boy, that when we ordered it, we got 2 large boxes. They were about really huge boxes, but the binders and the cassette tapes, and that was that was the start to the remainder of what's happened for us over the last, oh golly, when did we get those? 1998. Wow, almost 30 years ago. Some of you weren't even born when we got the tapes. Oh well. Anyway, I digress. Okay, let's see who's next. Anna, do you have something you can rejoice in?
Oh, she is absent in the class, just recording.
Okay. Evgeny, how about you? No, I guess he's just recording as well. Let's go to Katerina.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
glad to see you. Sorry, I'm without a camera today. Um, uh, can you help me, please, with translating?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Olga. Я радуюсь тому, что мы
I'm happy that we start today the classes, that we meet again. And because I missed a little bit you all of you, and I'm happy that the weather is good today. I'm happy that people around me is in good mood. And today I helped a little bit my husband. I'm happy about it. And today I did some practices, and I remember about also emptiness and karma. So today it was perfect day. I'm happy. Thank you.
Good, good. That's the most important offering any student can give me, is to practice what we teach. Flowers are nice, money's nice, stuff like that is nice, but if you're practicing what we teach, that's the important thing to me. Okay, Tatiana, you're last but not least.
Добрый вечер. Я извиняюсь.
Good evening. I'm sorry. I'm also without camera.
Я очень рада, что
I'm very happy
снова с вами уже
that I'm again with you already for 1 year since I met
я
you.
очень надеюсь, что смогу
And
задать
I hope that I will be able to ask my questions to Venerable Sumati.
Sure. At the end of class, we can answer questions. Okay, that's everybody
Благодарю.
on my screen, I think. Oh, I've got to rejoice. I rejoice
Oh,
in having all you students. I rejoice that I'm going to be teaching the White Tara, the 21 Praises, and I'm getting that ready to go. That's been quite the endeavor. I decided to change how I teach it. And I originally thought that would be a very simple thing, but it's turned out to be quite complicated. Many hours of late night, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's allowed me to review aspects of the Dharma that I'd forgotten. So I think it's going to be fun. And the White Tara practice is really extraordinary. So if any of you are interested in attending that, I think we're going to release the schedule and everything. Has that been released, Svetlana, the schedule?
Yeah, it is shared in the chat.
Okay. Okay.
By
Yeah,
ACI.
we made some changes to the time on the schedule. So you may want to take a look in the chat in another day or two. But it's apparently going to have quite a few people attending and quite a few languages. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I get to teach from midnight to 3 a.m. one day. That's always fun. Okay, so what do I have to rejoice in besides having such lovely students? My wife's coming back from being gone for 10 days. That's always a rejoiceable. She got to go in a Tesla on a 9-hour drive. And so she's going to report back on what it's like to have to stop and recharge the car and all that. So that should be nice. I had some material. I'm writing one more article on the missile programs that I like to write. And I recently had asked for 10 documents to be declassified, to be released to me. And they gave me 6 of the 10. And 5 years ago, I would have been pretty upset that I couldn't get the other 4. And now I just rejoice in the fact that I got the 6 that I did get. 2 of them have wonderful new information. I don't know if I shared with you the photographs that I've stumbled across, beautiful, vivid color photographs of part of the program I'm writing about. The only trouble is the journal I publish it in doesn't take color photographs. So that's too bad. But okay. So these classes are pretty short, and I don't like to double up classes because that gives you more homework and reading. So these first couple of classes for course 5 are fairly short. And that happened when Geshe Michael had other projects he had to work on. He tended to have shorter classes. So we'll just go with that. Okay, class 1 is, well, first of all, this is how karma works. We're going to delve into a lot of the details about karma and, of course, emptiness. So let's dive in. The foundation text for the study of karma is something called the Abhidharma Kosha. It's the treasure house of knowledge. It's a primary reference for the Detailer school, which is part of Hinayana. Let's skip down. Well, no, we'll go through the commentary. We're going to use a commentary called Illumination on a Path to Freedom by the first Dalai Lama. This was Geshe Michael's first big translation project with his root Lama, Ken Rinpoche. And they never published it. But I have a digital copy if you would like it. Well, I can give that to you with permission from Geshe Michael. Now, it's an interesting thing. Back when I first started, we had a study group before we got all the tapes. And we were studying the Abhidharma Kosha. And I read a section. I can't remember what the section was. I read it in the afternoon and was all ready to share it with our study group. And I got to the study group. I opened the book and I couldn't understand the thing that was being said. It's like I had the karma to understand it, and then that karma disappeared. It was pretty weird. So my advice, if you're reading a piece of the Dharma that's really making good sense, take notes. Write down what's making sense, because it was quite embarrassing. But anyway, okay. So what are the schools of Buddhism? This is something the graphic, the table I sent, I think you all should have a copy of. I strongly urge you to be able to write this down. Write down the school, the functional schools, Hinayana and Mahayana, because this comes up in classes all the time. And what distracted me in studying these courses was that I'd hear them say functional school, and I go, oh, which one's that? What's that located? Which one, what order? And I'd lose track of the teaching because I'd be thinking about something, not listening to him. Now with the tapes, you just go back and play them again. But if you're in a live teaching, it's much nicer to know these. So it's not so much a homework question. I just really implore you to listen, to memorize these. So we have the functionalist, independent, and implication schools. And we have Hinayana and Mahayana. So Hinayana is the lesser vehicle. Mahayana is the greater vehicle. Then we have these separate schools that we talk about in passing. The Detailist, Sutra School, Chittamatra or Yogacara, mind only. Madhyamika, the Chittamatra and Yogacara are Mahayana, Madhyamika, the middle way. There's the independence of Svatantrika and the Prasangika. So we're the implication school. And these are ranked from lowest to highest understanding of dependent origination and lowest to highest understanding of emptiness. Now, you often will hear the idea of the scopes. So there's a lesser scope, a medium scope, and a greater scope. The lesser scope just want to stay out of rebirth in the three realms, in the lower realm. So they adhere to the 10 virtuous deeds and try and stay away from the 10 non-virtues. The medium scope, they want to escape samsara suffering and eliminate their own mental afflictions, but they don't really have an interest in doing this for anybody else, which is a little hard to imagine. But then the greater scope, that's Mahayana. They want to reach total enlightenment so they can teach other people to do the same. Now, you heard me say total enlightenment. And for those that may be new to the teachings, I thought there was just one enlightenment. There's just enlightenment. And then I kept seeing this total enlightenment, which implied there was a not total enlightenment. So I checked into this and worked very hard to find it, and finally realized that enlightenment has different definitions. For the Hinayana, excuse me, for the Mahayana, let's see, how do the listeners and the self-made Buddhas. I tell you what, I'll send you a table within this in it. I should have done that today. But anyway, so you've got the listeners and self-made Buddhas, and you've got, they're interested in reaching nirvana. That's what they call their enlightenment, is nirvana. Now, nirvana is a cessation of mental afflictions. And so that must be pretty pleasant. You have no more mental afflictions. But that's enlightenment in quotes. Mahayana enlightenment is enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings. And that's total enlightenment. That's the omniscient state of a Buddha. So the difference between an enlightenment comes from your definition of enlightenment, not that they're different, really different enlightenments. The Mahayana practitioner in school, the implication schools, there's really only one enlightenment, and that's the total enlightenment of an omniscient Buddha. Now, listeners and self-made Buddhas can and do see emptiness directly, but they don't have bodhicitta in their heart at that moment, and so they end up getting enlightened to their quote-unquote enlightenment, but not total enlightenment. So that's something I struggled with for a long time. I shouldn't say struggle, it made me, I couldn't figure out why you could have partial enlightenment. But now I know. The real meaning of the concept of the three vehicles is the idea of how much of a load you can carry. In our context, it refers to the motivation for one's spiritual goals. So listeners, or they're also called hearers, they're so called because they hear the Bodhisattva teachings and can even teach it, but they do not personally embrace the path. They like the four Arya truths and the 16 truths within the four Arya truths. Self-made Buddhas are Pratyak Buddhas. They're also called solitary realizers. They perceive emptiness directly, but are neither self-made or are they Buddhas. They're not self-made because it looks like they achieved enlightenment in this particular lifetime without any help, but they've had many years, many lifetimes of teachers. But nor are they Buddhas because they achieve nirvana, but not total enlightenment. They like the 12 links of the Wheel of Life as their primary teaching. Then there's the greater way, which is what we consider ourselves to be, or we can consider ourselves to be, and that's called the way of the Bodhisattvas. And we study the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. So back to the Abhidhamma Kosha. It's used by all traditions as a root text. It's translated in Tibetan and English. In English and Tibetan, it's Gunpa Chu Zu. And Gunpa means approaching, Chu means existing things, and Zu means treasure. Abhidhamma refers to taking you up to nirvana, basically understanding emptiness. There were 7 original texts of the Abhidhamma written by disciples of Lord Buddha. Master Vasubandhu compiled all these 7 into this one text. His brother was Master Asanga, and between them and Arya Nagarjuna and Tsongkhapa, you have the 4 greatest scholars in Buddhism. Their mother was a nun, and she had a dream that if she had children, they would become famous scholars. So she disrobed and had these 2, and her dream came true. By now in these courses, you should have a reasonable understanding indeed a desire, a drive to understand and experience emptiness directly. There are a multitude of reasons, but according to Master Shantideva, the only way to get the point of doing only good deeds, creating great merit or virtue, is to see emptiness directly. Doing so completely convinces you of the need and prevents you from doing wrong deeds. This certainly doesn't mean you can't strive to do only good deeds now, but I think the point is you still talk yourself into rationalizing not doing good deeds. Example, one of my favorites is garbage. How many times have you walked by in a retreat, in retreat or out of retreat, by some garbage and not picked it up? Once you identify it as garbage, if you understand karma and emptiness, you have to pick it up. Of course, there are circumstances that mitigate this, but you really, that's what karma and emptiness is all about. So I have an example from when I was teaching in El Paso. When I taught in El Paso Friday afternoon, well, I get there in time for a short class. Let's see. No, we started teaching on Saturday. So I get there and we traditionally went out to dinner with the students and found a Dharma movie to watch. So we were going to the theater one evening, and we were walking by an SUV, and from a distance I saw there was a small wrapped package at the back of the SUV on the ground. So I walked up and over, and it was a spent diaper that had been bundled, just not taken away. So much to my students' chagrin, I went and picked it up. It was safe to do so. It was covered. But they all said, "Why are you doing that? It's a dirty diaper." And I said, "I looked at it, I identified it as garbage. So I can't just walk by and say, well, it's okay for that garbage to exist. I don't care." So that's what I mean by identifying and picking it up. Now, and there's another thing that happened in El Paso that's a little bit off the subject, but I think it's an important thing to share. You want to do good deeds. You think about doing good deeds all the time if you're a Mahayana practitioner, especially if you're taking the Bodhisattva vows. But you have to be careful. What you consider to be a good deed may get someone in trouble. And I have two instances. One, we were on a cruise, and I reached over to pour water from the pitcher on the table, and the waiter came rushing over and asked me to please never do that again. If the head waiter saw me pouring water for myself or somebody else, that implied my waiter wasn't doing his job and he could be fired on the spot. So here I am thinking I'm helping someone when I'm potentially harming them. My other example is, you know how people leave their shopping carts in the parking lot in a grocery store or elsewhere? That really used to really get me annoyed because they'd leave it in the middle of a parking spot and you'd have to get out and move it. So what I started doing was trying to collect as many as I could and move them to the where they're supposed to be. So I had like 5 or 6 lined up, was going for some more, and the parking lot shopping cart attendant came rushing up and saying, "If my manager sees you doing that, that means I'm not doing my job." And again, he could get fired. So now I said, "So how many can I take to put away?" And he goes, 1 or 2 is fine. But see, again, here I am thinking I'm helping this person, and what I'm doing is causing them strife. So it doesn't mean don't do good deeds. Just think about it, not only in dedicating it, but think about the possible outcome for someone else. So there are 2 types of Abhidharma. There's unstained knowledge. There's Sherab in Tibetan. That's higher knowledge. This can be considered the main Abhidharma, the 3 higher paths of the 5 paths. Can anybody tell me what the 5 paths are in Buddhism? You should be able to do this. I'll give you a hint. Renunciation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of habituation, and path of no more learning. So the Abhidharma Kosha is about the seeing, habituation, no more learning parts of three higher paths. Now there's a list of the three principal paths of Buddhism. You remember what those are? That's from Course 1.
Renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view.
Right, very good. And that's what we're going to be talking about as the Lam teaching for the White Tara. I'm going to have to excuse myself for a minute. I'll be right back. Come on. Okay. One of the problems with having prostate cancer, having had prostate cancer, is when it's time to go, it's time to go. So I apologize. Okay, so where were we? We're talking about the types of the five paths. So there's a higher knowledge, and then there's the chedrong, the things following behind or hanging on to the main teaching. So there are 8 chapters in the Abhidharma Kosha. Now, I am happy to send the translation Geshe Michael did. The Abhidharma Kosha, his translation is digital, so you can search it and find all kinds of interesting things. Fairly well explained in terms of clarity. But this is his first translation project, and I think with his Root Lama as the head part of the translation, he was limited in how to make this clear. One thing I really enjoy about Geshe Michael's translations are they're in everyday English. There are other translators that use $10 words that I have to look up. I have nothing wrong against looking up words, but I really appreciate how clear and simple Geshe Michael's translations are. But I recommend getting the copy, the digital copy. Okay, so chapter 1 is the categories of existence. The general concepts and overview, basic categories are stained or unstained knowledge. Chapter number 2, the sense faculties, how things are caused, mental functions. Number 3, the suffering world, description of the 6 or 7 realms. Can anybody give me the 6 realms?
Hell real, hungry ghost, animal, humans, semi-gods, and gods.
Right. And then if you want to add a 7th, that would be the Bardo beings. Very good. Now, the Wheel of Life has a beautiful, we talked about the Wheel of Life several weeks ago, but that was a beautiful description of the realms and how they fit into the circle of life. And again, I have to thank Mike for his help in teaching me a bunch of things about Photoshop I never knew. I'm not sure I want to know. Well, I do want to know them. I had a question about Photoshop. I'll have to think about it, Mike. I had another question about, oh, this is, well, maybe this isn't the right time, but what the heck. I was preparing the PowerPoint slides for the upcoming Tara teaching. And when I put one image in, it had the box border and it was white. And I wanted to fill that in with the background for the slide. And for the life of me, I can't do it. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just like a regular picture.
Yeah. Well, I'll send it to you. I'll send
Yeah,
it to you.
send it to me. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's the trouble with knowing more and more about these things. I try and get a little too fancy, but back in the day, as a research scientist, back in the day, all we had was black and white. We didn't have color. Then PowerPoint came into existence, and everybody started using all the different bizarre colors in their graphs. And I tell you from experience, fluorescent colors don't show up well on a white background. But I remember everybody going nuts about packing their graphs with all these different colors. And I tend to make my PowerPoint presentations very simple. Okay. Category powers, suffering world, who is suffering and where, time, space, and cosmology, and further elaboration on the suffering world described in the first 2 chapters. Karma, where the suffering world comes from, and proves that it does not come from a creator God. That's what we're going to be focusing our attention on. Mental functions, how they motivate karma, that's chapter 5. Person and path is chapter 6. Refers to advanced practitioners and wisdom respectfully, how to escape suffering. Wisdom chapter, further detail on wisdom. And 8, balanced meditation. So Geshe Michael brings up a side detail concerning the qualities of a genuine Buddhist book and uses the Abhidhamma Kosha as an example. So these are the qualities of a Buddhist book. If they do not have these qualities, it isn't a Buddhist book, which is a little confusing, as we'll see in a minute. So subject matter is meaningful. Abhidhamma details stained and unstained objects. So that's an important consideration. The purpose of the book, the second consideration, in the Abhidhamma Kosha is to plant the seeds of wisdom. So far, so good. Ultimate goal, the ultimate goal of Abhidhamma Kosha is nirvana. Relationship between the prior 3 attributes can be developed by studying the Abhidhamma Kosha. So if you study the Abhidhamma Kosha, the first 3, the subject matter, purpose, and ultimate goal, all contribute to the quality of the book. If it doesn't have all 4 of these points, it's not a Buddhist book. So well, I wasn't kidding when I said today's class is short, because that's today's class. Anybody have any questions? Believe me, there are days when the courses are the teaching's 2 hours long. So if you think this is too short, you're going to be thinking it's way too long in the not too distant future. But I could start telling jokes, but that's not going to get us anywhere. So, Tatiana, you had some questions.
Да, благодарю.
Yes, thank you so much.
Но у меня вопрос не по пятому.
I have question not about course 5. Is it okay?
Well, sure. If I can't answer it, I'll look it up and get back to you. Go ahead, fire away.
Спасибо.
Thank you so much.
Сейчас изучаю курс
Now I'm learning the course Bodhisattva's Vows,
Yes.
7 course. And there is a question about freedom vows.
Yeah.
Should they be taken before the vows of wish? Is it so, or I don't understand correctly?
The freedom vows, in my personal opinion, you have to have the lifetime layperson vows. I'm pretty sure this is true before you take the bodhisattva vows. So you don't have to be a monk or a nun, but you have to have the lifetime layperson vows. They should be taken beforehand. So I can give the lifetime layperson vows. I haven't been a monk, fully ordained monk long enough to be able to give the monk's vows. But I can give the bodhisattva vows, and I'd be happy to give the lifetime layperson vows. I will share this. When I give the lifetime layperson vows, I only have one student I've made the exception for, and that was extraordinary circumstances. But lifetime layperson vows, you have to take all 5. You can't cherry pick and just select the ones you don't want to take. The one that people usually don't want to take is that they won't drink anymore. Does that answer your question, Tatiana?
Благодарю. У меня их еще очень много, но мне нужно
Thank you
подумать.
so much. I have some more questions, but I have to think. I will think about it.
Okay. Well,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Thank you so much. My question also is not relating the course particularly, but yeah, for practice maybe. What seeds should we plant, or how we can develop our skills that we can be able to memorize like 3 principal paths, remembering, and etc. Like as I tried to read several times and etc. It's difficult to memorize. Maybe I should be more patient and dedicate more time for it, or maybe there are some points.
Well, I tell you, the way I memorize, the one that I've memorized and can really recite, and I have trouble now memorizing some of them, the source of all my good. I just love that. That translation by Geshe Michael is just superb. The one I have difficulty remembering is the 3 principal paths. That's a little more difficult to remember. And the one I can't seem to remember at all are the 8-point, what's that? The Lojong. Oh, golly, I can't remember the name now. 8. Mind training, 8 verses of mind training. So the way I memorized the source of all my good was I was in a hotel room when I was going to University of Arkansas Press to negotiate the publication of my first book. And I was there for 3 days. And I just took the text up and I'd read a verse and memorize it front and back. Then I'd go to the second verse, try and memorize that, and then try and repeat front to back, back to front, the first 2 verses. And if I couldn't do that, I'd stop and I'd get it to where I could. And I just would do that for each of the verses. Then the important thing is, once you've done it all and you seem to have it, you really need to continue doing it over the next several days, or you'll lose it. Now, from a karma, that's just the how to memorize. It takes the effort. Why? Is if you can memorize, it's because you've helped other people in the past get what they want. Now, my personal opinion is, it's not that you help someone else memorize something. I mean, that'd be great. That's more direct. But you want to be able to memorize. You want something. You want to memorize text. So if you find someone else that needs help in any form, you can dedicate helping them to your having the karma to be able to memorize. So for instance, Svetlana, when you translate, dedicate that translation so that you in the future will have the ability to understand and memorize things that you want to memorize. To me, that's one of the, how can I put this? I think one of the, I'm trying to think of the right words. It's easy to think the correlation of a karmic event has to be exactly the same. So if you want money, you have to give money. If you want teaching, you have to give teaching. Well, that's true. But if you want money, you have to help other people succeed in what they're doing. So if I want more money, if I want wealth in my future, certainly I could make donations to various causes and dedicate that to my future well-being. But there are other things, there's other types of generosity. You could give of your time, and that's helping someone get something they need. So I try very hard to open up the idea of a karmic deed to cover many more instances. So for instance, like I said with Svetlana, yes, you could help someone memorize, take on a karmic partner. That would be a great way to do it, to set up and then test each other. Lama Christie had us memorize the Heart Sutra, which I kind of can still do, but we had to memorize four phrases, four lines in a verse. Once for every week we took the course. Every week we met, and we had to memorize one or more verses. And so if you set a deadline to memorize something and adhere to it, that would help. I think the strongest karmic thing you could do is find someone else who wants to memorize a verse. It doesn't have to be the source of all my good. It could be the Heart Sutra, and help them by helping repeat it, etc. It's pretty tedious, but the magic for me, having the source of all my good in my mind and other things I've memorized, is when the instance comes up during the day and you need to pull a quote from source of all my good, instead of looking on your phone to see if you've got the PDF, you've got it memorized. So the source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, etc. So I find it very comforting to have this memorized. Plus, my eyesight's not so good, so it's too small on a phone. I put a bunch of stuff on my phone thinking that would help when I'm in a doctor's office. And it's just so tiny a print, and nobody wants to listen to it, so I don't turn it on, the voice. Does that help any, Svetlana?
Yes, it's very helpful. Thank you so much.
I encourage you to memorize, well, for instance, that thing about the schools. It's really, there's some just basic things to memorize in Tibetan Buddhism. For those of you that don't know about the Book of Lists, I compiled over 276, well, it's not over, 276 lists out of the ACI courses and put them in a website. What do I call it? The letter T, book. I think I call it book of lists. Well, I need to check that. That's embarrassing. I wrote the thing. You'd think I'd know. And I think it's tbooklists, all one word.com. There we go. Thank you. And if you go there, you can find the list in Russian, English, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Chinese. I'm trying to get the German, Bulgarian, and Romanian lists finished. But those students are taking a little bit longer. But it was a lot of fun to put together, and that you can go there and check for the list, various lists of 3, lists of 7. It's a great way to also to memorize lists. I've been wanting to do that since I started my career in Buddhism in 1998, and it took until January of 2024, but it's done. It's one of my bucket list items. So if I was to die tomorrow, I would say I did the book of lists. I found something out about the book, about the web, that maybe you don't know. There's something called the font police. I had a guy contact me and say I was using 2 of his fonts without his permission. What? So he initially thought I was going to charge me $900, but we were able to work it down to 150, 120. So I paid him. It's legit. I checked it out with the young lady who helped me build the website. And she said, yeah, it's true. So I now know there are 2 fonts that are open fonts. And so I used those. I went back and converted everything to the open fonts. But whoever thought there'd be something called well, I call them the font police. Can you imagine how unexciting that would be to spend your day looking through websites to see if they had your font? I think that would have to be the definition of extremely boring. Maybe it's exciting, I don't know. My first thought it was a scam, but it turned out to not be a scam. So a little tidbit that goes along with learning more about the Abhidharma Kosha. Any other questions? Okay. Well, Daria, I hope you feel better. You don't look happy. Well, get better. I hope you feel better. My wife had a 1-day flu that knocked her out. She was in bed for most of the day. And that's the interesting thing about karma. Where she got it from, we don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't feel sick at all. So how does contagious disease work? Well, it's like having someone in the household get COVID and you not get COVID. Okay, let's do our dedication. So this is pretty short. Next class is pretty short. If you want, I'll double them up and we can have a full 2-hour course, but that just doubles the homework and the reading, and sometimes the reading's pretty extensive. So talk among yourselves, and if you want me to double up the courses, I'll consider it. Okay, dedication. Let's take a couple. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings never be separated from the highest bliss, which is devoid of suffering, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings come to rest in the great impartiality, which is free from attachment and aversion. May I help them achieve this. May the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma is taught by the Buddhas, always increase. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect Lama. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every level and path and reach then quickly the pace where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. Okay, we'll see you all on Thursday, right? Yeah, Thursday at 10. We'll continue this. Wendy, I'm glad you're able to attend the class in person. That must be nice. This, by the way, the scene behind me is Malaysia. It's a friend's, one of my students' brother-in-law has this incredible house with several ponds. And I just, every time I look at that, we were the first Westerners to come to his house. It was weird to be identified that way. It's like we live in a highly Hispanic city in Tucson, and it's weird every once in a while someone will say something about, well, that's what white people think. And I look around thinking, who are they talking about? I'm talking about me. I don't really. Well, no, I take it back. I'm reasonably sensitive to this kind of thing. But it's just weird. I don't normally think of the races in terms of there being differences. I mean, I know there are and everything, but I was on a bus in Indianapolis one day. I was the only white person on this bus. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel scared or anything, but I realized I was the only white person on the bus. Then I went to a grocery store when I was in Montgomery, Alabama at one of the Air Force bases. And I was the only white guy in the entire grocery store. And people were looking at me like, what's a white guy doing in our grocery store? They're all very pleasant, don't get me wrong, but it was just, it's very weird having everybody walk by you and look at you like, what's the white guy doing in our grocery store? Okay, I digress. So, I need to give you my own homework instead of just the homework for there. The one I'm currently interested in learning about from everyone, and many of you have done this, but that's too bad. You get to do it again. I want you to think of an example of where you caught yourself seeing things as self-existent. And I'll give you the example I used last course. I was walking with my lovely wife, and I have Parkinson's, and it's to the point where walking is not so much as difficult, I'm just quite a bit slower. So she was quite a ways ahead. We're supposed to be walking together. She's quite a ways ahead. And I started to get a little bit annoyed because if I fell or something, she wouldn't know until she turned around, and that could be 10 minutes. So I was getting annoyed with that and thinking about saying something to her. And then I said, but Sumati, where's that coming from? Is it coming from her walking and being disrespectful? Or is it coming from your past karmas where you walked in front of her and had to wait for her to catch up? Well, obviously it was the second of the two. So instead of confronting her with it, I confronted myself and said, okay, in the future, you have to be more respectful of other people's time. She wanted to get somewhere quickly, so she wasn't respecting the fact that I couldn't walk that fast. But see, again, I'm saying she did that. And what happened was in the past, I did that to her or somebody else, and that's ripening now as it's happening to me. So they can't use taking a walk with your significant other. That's already been used. We tend to think we talk about the idea of things are not self-existent, but catch yourself. You'll find yourself things are more self-existent than you think, or they seem to be. Oh, that's one thing I don't know if I've shared with you guys. I like sharing stories I've already told. So if you don't like this story, don't listen. There's only one self-existent thing in this world, only one. And that's how to eat pancakes or French toast or waffles. You stack 3, not 4, but 3 pancakes. You unstack them and you take butter and put a generous quantity of butter or margarine on each pancake. Then you cut it 4 times this way and 4 times this way. Now you've increased vastly the surface area for the most important component of pancakes, waffles, or French toast, which is syrup. Now my wife doesn't use syrup, she uses jam. Use syrup. And that gets you a lot of absorbed syrup. I learned that from my father many years ago. He was a scientist just as I was. And that was his way of getting more syrup for the buck. So that's the only self-existent thing, which of course is silly because there are no self-existent things. But I like to use that as if there had to be one self-existent thing that's not harming anybody, it would be how to eat pancakes. Okay. We'll see everybody on Thursday. We'll have another probably short class, unless I can come up with some more stories. Hope you feel better, Daria.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I've just got to say one more time, Daria, you look to me just like Scarlett Johansson, the actress Scarlett Johansson. I look at a picture of you and I think, Scarlett Johansson's taking my class? I consider that a compliment. I once told someone they looked like an actress, and they looked at me like, well, thanks a lot. And it was like, well, it's a compliment. Well, according to them, it wasn't. So I've stopped doing that, except in Daria's case, because she really looks like Scarlett Johansson. Okay. Take care. Love to you all. Thank you for attending class, and we'll keep diving into the Abhidhamma Kosha. If you would like a copy of the Abhidhamma Kosha, I think it's in PDF form. Can I send you a copy, Svetlana, and you can distribute it? Okay. I will do that right after class. Thank you for translating, Olga. I hope I wasn't going too quickly.
Yes, everything is okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank
До
you.
свидания.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Спасибо.